Jiwoo checked her suit one more time. Everything had to be perfect. One mistake and the council would never let her go back down to the planet. She pulled on her gloves and felt the familiar weight of the protective gear. It wasn't armor. It was just enough to keep her safe from the sharp rocks and cold air. Through the window of the shuttle bay, she could see Vector 7 spinning below. The planet looked beautiful from space. Green forests covered most of the land. Rivers cut through valleys like silver threads, but everyone on the station called it a death world. They said nothing could live there safely. They were wrong. Captain Dae-jung walked over to her. His face showed concern but also trust. He had approved her mission when the Alien Council wanted to stop it. "You sure about this?" he asked. "I've read all 17 mission reports," Jiwoo said. "Every time the researchers went down there, the Raveks chased them away. But they weren't attacking. They were defending their territory from what they thought were prey animals." Dae-jung nodded. "The Council thinks the Raveks hate all intelligent life. The Council are all prey species," Jiwoo said quietly. "They smell like food to a predator. Of course the Raveks reacted badly. But I'm different. I'm human. We smell different. We move different. We evolved with predators, not just running from them." The shuttle pilot called out that they were ready. Jiwoo picked up her pack and headed for the door. Dae-jung caught her arm gently. "If anything goes wrong, hit the emergency beacon. We'll pull you out in 2 minutes." "I won't need it," Jiwoo said. She hoped she was right. The shuttle ride down was quiet. The pilot was one of the Pelnari, a species that looked like tall deer with 4 arms. He kept glancing at her like she was crazy. Maybe she was. But she had spent her whole life working with dangerous animals. Tigers, crocodiles, wolves. She understood them in a way most people didn't. The shuttle landed in a clearing near a river. Jiwoo stepped out and felt the wind on her face. The air smelled clean like pine trees and water. She could hear birds singing in the distance. This was supposed to be a death world. It felt more alive than the sterile station. She set up a simple camp. Just a small tent, some supplies, and a fire pit. She didn't hide. That was important. She wanted the Raveks to see her, to smell her, to understand she wasn't sneaking into their territory like a thief. For 2 days, nothing happened. Jiwoo sat by her fire and waited. She cooked her food slowly, letting the smell drift through the forest. She moved calmly, never quick or jerky. She hummed old songs from Earth. She made herself as non-threatening as possible. On the station above, she knew everyone was watching her cameras. Dr. Velthar, the station director, was probably pacing in his office. His species had been hunted by predators for millions of years. Every instinct in his body would be screaming that Jiwoo was in danger. But instinct wasn't always right. On the morning of the 3rd day, they came. Jiwoo was sitting by her fire drinking tea when she felt it. That prickle on the back of her neck that meant something was watching. She didn't move suddenly. She didn't look around. She just kept sipping her tea slowly. Then she saw them. 8 Raveks emerged from the trees. They were magnificent. Each one stood about 2 meters tall at the shoulder. They had 6 legs and bodies covered in dark fur with lighter stripes. Their heads were broad with powerful jaws. Their eyes were intelligent and focused. The pack spread out surrounding her camp. Jiwoo set down her teacup slowly. She made herself smaller, pulling her knees up. She kept her eyes down, not looking directly at any of them. Direct eye contact was a challenge. She didn't want to challenge them. The largest Raveks approached. "Female," Jiwoo noted. "The alpha." She had scars on her shoulder and moved with absolute confidence. This was her territory. Jiwoo was the intruder. The alpha stopped 3 meters away. She sniffed the air. Jiwoo could hear her breathing deep and steady. The predator was analyzing her. Friend or foe, threat or harmless, prey or something else. Jiwoo made a soft sound in her throat. Not quite a growl, not quite a hum. It was a sound she'd learned working with wolves. A sound that said, "I'm here. I see you. I'm not a threat." The alpha's ears twitched. She tilted her head slightly. Then she sat down. Just sat like a dog might sit. Watching. Waiting. On the station, Jiwoo knew alarms were probably going off. Velthar would be shouting at Dae-jung to extract her immediately. But Dae-jung would wait. He trusted her. She hoped that trust wasn't misplaced. Movement caught her eye. A small shape broke from the pack. A cub, maybe 4 months old, with oversized paws and bright, curious eyes. He bounded toward Jiwoo with the clumsy enthusiasm of all young things. The alpha made a warning sound, but the cub ignored her. He came right up to Jiwoo and sniffed her boots. Then her legs. Then her hands. His nose was cold and wet. Jiwoo stayed very still. The cub noticed her glove. The material was thick and padded. He grabbed it in his mouth and pulled. His baby teeth couldn't hurt her through the glove. Jiwoo let him tug for a moment. Then slowly she lifted her hand. The cub held on. His little claws scrabbled at her sleeve. He dangled from her hand, hanging on with determination, making soft growling sounds, not aggressive growls. Play growls, Jiwoo couldn't help it. She laughed. A soft, genuine laugh of pure delight. Here she was on an alien planet, with an apex predator cub hanging from her glove like a puppy with a toy. It was absurd and wonderful and exactly what she'd hoped for. She gently booped the cub's nose with her other hand. The cub let go and dropped to the ground. He bounced back immediately, dropping into a play bow with his front legs stretched out and his rear end in the air. His tail wagged. The universal sign of play that existed across 100 different Earth species. Jiwoo looked at the alpha. The big female was watching calmly, not stopping her cub, not attacking Jiwoo for touching him. She understood what was happening. Her baby was playing, not fighting, and this strange creature was responding correctly. Jiwoo slowly reached into her pack and pulled out a piece of dried meat. She tossed it to the cub. He pounced on it, grabbing it in his jaws and shaking it vigorously. Then he ran back to his mother with his prize. The pack stayed for another hour. They investigated her camp thoroughly. They sniffed everything. One of them knocked over her water container and another scattered her spare clothes. But they weren't aggressive. They were just curious. Jiwoo let them explore. She stayed calm and quiet, letting them get used to her presence. Finally, the alpha stood up. She made a sound, something between a bark and a howl. The pack gathered around her. The cub gave Jiwoo one last look, his head tilted in curiosity. Then they all melted back into the forest. Jiwoo sat very still for a long moment. Then she let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Her hands were shaking slightly, not from fear, from excitement, from the pure joy of connecting with another intelligent species. Her communicator crackled to life. It was Daejung. Jiwoo, are you okay? We saw everything. The council is having a complete meltdown up here. I'm fine, Jiwoo said. Better than fine. Did you see? They weren't aggressive. They were curious. The cub played with me. The alpha let him. That means something, Daejung. That means we can communicate with them. There was a pause. Then Daejung said, Velthar wants you back on the station immediately. He's calling an emergency council meeting. Jiwoo looked at her scattered camp. She looked at the forest where the Raveks had disappeared. Tell him I'm coming up. But tell him something else too. Tell him that everything they think they know about predators is wrong. And I can prove it. She started packing her gear. Her mind was already racing ahead. She had so much to explain, so much to teach them. The galaxy was full of prey species who had never learned what humans knew instinctively. Predators weren't just killers. They were intelligent, social, capable of forming bonds. And that little cub who had grabbed her glove, he was going to help her prove it. She was sure of that. She had seen the intelligence in his eyes, the curiosity, the willingness to trust. The shuttle arrived to take her back to the station. As it lifted off, Jiwoo looked down at the forest one last time. Somewhere down there, a pack of Raveks was living their lives. And one small cub was probably telling his mother about the strange creature who played with him and gave him food. Tomorrow, Jiwoo would face the council. She would face their fear and their doubt. But she had evidence now. She had proof. And she had something else. The memory of a predator cub hanging from her glove, growling softly in play, while his mother watched in acceptance. The council chamber was crowded. Representatives from 15 different species filled the seats, all talking at once. Jiwoo stood in the center of the room and waited for them to quiet down. Next to her, Captain Daejung stood with his arms crossed. He looked calm, but Jiwoo could see the tension in his jaw. Dr. Velthar called for order. His voice was sharp with stress. When everyone finally settled, he turned to Jiwoo. Dr. Han, what you did was incredibly dangerous. You violated 17 safety protocols. You put yourself at risk from creatures that have attacked every research team we've sent. They didn't attack those teams, Jiwoo said quietly. They chased them away. There's a difference. A difference? One of the other council members stood up. She was Pelnari like Velthar, tall and nervous. We watched predators surround you. We saw teeth and claws. How is that not an attack? Jiwoo pulled up the video footage on the main screen. Watch their body language, she said. See how they move? Their ears are forward, not back. Their tails are relaxed, not stiff. When the alpha approached me, she sat down. That's not attack behavior. That's observation behavior. The council members watched the video. Jiwoo could see confusion on their faces. They were trying to understand, but their instincts kept telling them they were watching a hunting scene. And the cub? Velthar asked. It grabbed you. We saw it bite your hand. He was playing, Jiwoo said. Watch what happens next. She let the video continue. The council watched as she lifted her hand with the cub hanging from her glove. They heard her laugh. They saw the cub drop down and play bow. Play? Another council member said. Predators play? All intelligent social species play, Jiwoo said. It's how young ones learn. How they build social bonds. How they practice skills they'll need as adults. The cub was testing me, and I responded correctly. That's why the alpha didn't intervene. Hana, who had been standing quietly at the back of the room, stepped forward. May I speak? She asked Velthar. He nodded. I'm a behavioral psychologist, Hana said. I specialize in evolutionary psychology, and I think the problem here is that we're all speaking different languages. She pulled up a new presentation on the screen. Every species in this room evolved from prey animals, Hana continued. You developed intelligence as prey. You learned to run, to hide, to recognize danger quickly. Your brains are wired to see predators as absolute threats. It's kept you alive for millions of years. The council members nodded. This they understood. But humans are different, Hana said. We weren't prey. We weren't predators either. We were both. We were in the middle of the food chain. We hunted smaller animals. Bigger animals hunted us. We survived by learning to understand both sides. She showed images from Earth. Humans walking with lions. Swimming with sharks. Training eagles to hunt with them. Each image made the council members visibly uncomfortable. These aren't tricks, Hana explained. These are relationships. Humans learn to read predator behavior. We learned when they were hunting and when they were curious, when they were angry and when they were playful. We had to learn this to survive. And then we did something remarkable. We took that knowledge and built partnerships. She showed a video of wolves. 30,000 years ago, humans and wolves formed a bond. Wolves helped us hunt. We shared food with them. Together we were stronger. Those wolves became dogs. Every dog you see on Earth today came from that partnership. You domesticated predators? One council member asked in disbelief. We partnered with them, Daejung corrected. There's a difference. Domestication sounds like we forced them, but it was mutual. Wolves who worked with humans had more food, better survival rates. Humans who worked with wolves hunted more successfully. Both sides benefited. Velthar stood up. He looked tired. I'm trying to understand. Truly I am. But when I watch that video, all I see is danger. My entire body tells me to run. How do I trust what you're saying when every instinct I have disagrees? Jiwoo looked at him with sympathy. I'm not asking you to trust your instincts, Dr. Velthar. I'm asking you to trust the evidence. Trust the data. Your instincts evolved for a different situation. They're useful, but they're not always right. Humans feel fear too, Hana added. Jiwoo was afraid down there. I could see it in her vitals. Her heart rate went up when the pack appeared. Her stress hormones spiked. But she understood what her fear meant. It meant be careful, pay attention, not run away immediately. You're saying we're too afraid? Another council member asked, sounding offended. No, Jiwoo said firmly. Your fear kept your species alive. I respect that. But I'm saying there's more to predators than you've been able to see. Your fear is blocking you from understanding their intelligence, their social structures, their capacity for non-aggressive behavior. The room was quiet. Jiwoo could see them thinking, struggling with ideas that went against millions of years of evolution. Finally, Velthar spoke. What are you proposing, Dr. Han? Let me continue my research, Jiwoo said. Let me go back down there and build a relationship with that pack. I can learn their communication methods. I can document their social structure. I can prove they're intelligent social beings who deserve our respect, not our fear. Absolutely not, one council member said. It's too dangerous. Dangerous for whom? Daejung asked. Dr. Han has more experience with predators than everyone in this room combined. She's worked with Earth's most dangerous species for 15 years without a single serious injury. She knows what she's doing. Let me go with her, Hana said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. I'm not trained in predator behavior. I don't have Dr. Han's experience. If a regular person like me can safely observe the Raveks with Dr. Han's guidance, it proves her methods work. Jiwoo looked at Hana in surprise. That's not necessary. You'd be putting yourself at risk. Yes, it is necessary, Hana said. The council needs proof that humans can teach these skills. That it's not just you. If I can learn to read Ravek's behavior, if I can safely interact with them, it shows this is teachable knowledge, not just some special ability. Belthar looked between the two women. Jiwoo could see him thinking, weighing options. His scientific curiosity was fighting with his fear. I'll agree to this, he said finally. But with conditions. You both wear emergency beacons at all times. You check in every hour. And if I see anything that looks dangerous, I'm pulling you both out immediately. Agreed, Jiwoo said. And one more thing, Velthar added. I want daily reports. Detailed analysis of every interaction. If you're right about this, if the Raveks truly are intelligent and social, then that changes everything we know about predator species. But I need proof. Real scientific proof. You'll get it, Jiwoo promised, the council voted. It was close, but Jiwoo's research was approved. As the meeting ended, council members filed out, still arguing among themselves. Some looked convinced, others looked horrified, but they had agreed. Belthar stopped Jiwoo as she was leaving. I'm terrified I'm making a mistake, he admitted quietly. Every part of me says this is wrong. I understand, Jiwoo said. But sometimes the right choice feels wrong because it's unfamiliar. Thank you for trusting the evidence over your instincts. That takes real courage. Velthar nodded slowly. Don't make me regret this, Dr. Han. I won't, Jiwoo said. Later, in their quarters, Hana looked nervous. Was I crazy to volunteer? She asked. Maybe a little, Jiwoo said with a smile. But also brave. And you're right. We need to show that humans can teach this. That it's not just instinct. And can you teach me? Hana asked. Really teach me to understand them? Yes, Jiwoo said confidently. You already know the theory. You're a psychologist. You understand behavior. I just need to help you apply it to a different kind of mind. You'll do fine. Hana took a deep breath. Okay, when do we start? Tomorrow morning, Jiwoo said. I have a feeling that little cub is waiting for us, and I can't wait to see him again. 3 weeks had passed since Jiwoo and Hana returned to the planet. Their camp was more established now, with better equipment and stronger shelters. But more importantly, they had visitors almost every day. The cub came first each morning. Jiwoo had named him Striker because of the dark stripe across his back. He would bound into camp with endless energy, ready to play. His favorite game was tug of war with an old rope Jiwoo had brought from the station. Today, Striker grabbed the rope and pulled hard. Jiwoo pulled back, but not too hard. She let him win sometimes. That was important. Young predators needed to feel successful to build confidence. Hana sat nearby taking notes. She had gotten much better at reading Ravek's body language. At first, every movement had scared her. But Jiwoo had taught her to look for specific signs. Ears forward meant curious. Ears back meant uncertain or afraid. A wagging tail meant playful. A stiff tail meant alert. Watch his shoulders, Jiwoo said as Striker tugged on the rope. See how relaxed they are? If he was being aggressive, his whole body would be tense. This is all play. The alpha female, who Jiwoo called Sentinel, lay in the shade watching them. She came to camp less often than Striker, but when she did, it was to observe. Jiwoo thought she was evaluating whether the humans were safe for her pack to be around. Can I try playing with him? Hana asked nervously. Yes, Jiwoo said. But remember what I taught you. Keep your movements smooth. Don't grab suddenly. Let him approach you. Hana picked up a ball they'd made from rolled-up fabric. She held it up so Striker could see it, then tossed it gently across the camp. Striker's eyes locked onto it immediately. He dropped the rope and chased after the ball, pouncing on it with exaggerated movements. Good throw, Jiwoo said. You judged the distance perfectly. Not too far, not too close. Stryker brought the ball back to Hana. He dropped it at her feet and looked up at her expectantly. Hana laughed, delighted and nervous at the same time. She threw it again. This time Stryker caught it in midair. On the station above, Jiwoo knew the council was watching. They watched every day now. Some were starting to understand. Others still looked horrified. But they kept watching. After an hour of play, Stryker tired out. He flopped down between Jiwoo and Hana, panting happily. Without thinking, Hana reached out and scratched behind his ear. Stryker leaned into her hand, making a sound like a purr. Hana froze. "Did I just pet an apex predator?" "You did," Jiwoo said with a grin. "And he liked it." "That's huge progress, Hana. Remember your first day here? You could barely look at him without shaking." "I remember," Hana said softly. "I was so scared. But now, when I look at him, I don't see a monster. I see a young creature who's curious and playful and learning about his world." That afternoon, something changed. Hana was gathering water from the river when she slipped on a wet rock. She fell hard and Jiwoo heard her cry out in pain. Jiwoo ran to her immediately. "My leg," Hana gasped. "I think it's broken." Jiwoo examined her carefully. The leg was definitely broken. She could see the unnatural angle. "Don't move," Jiwoo said. She grabbed her communicator. "Station, this is Jiwoo. Medical emergency. Hana has a broken leg. We need immediate extraction." Daijung's voice came back tense. "Shuttle launching now. ETA 30 minutes. Can you stabilize her?" "Yes," Jiwoo said. "We'll be ready." She pulled out the medical kit and started working on Hana's leg. She gave her something for the pain first, then carefully splinted the break. Hana was trying to be brave, but Jiwoo could see tears in her eyes. "It's going to be okay," Jiwoo said. "The shuttle will be here soon." Then Hana's eyes went wide. "Jiwoo," she whispered. "Behind you." Jiwoo turned slowly. The pack was there. All 8 adults standing at the edge of the clearing. They must have heard Hana's cry, or smelled the blood. Jiwoo's heart started beating faster. This was different from their usual visits. The Raveks were alert, focused. They were smelling the air, analyzing the situation. An injured creature meant an easy meal to most predators. "Stay calm," Jiwoo told Hana quietly. "Don't make sudden movements." "Let me handle this." Stryker approached first. The cub sniffed toward Hana, curious about the new smell. Blood, fear, pain. All things that would interest a predator. On the station, alarms were probably screaming. Velthar was probably shouting to extract them immediately. But Jiwoo stayed focused. She had to trust what she knew about pack behavior, had to trust the relationship they'd built. Then Sentinel moved. The big alpha walked forward with purpose. For a moment, Jiwoo thought she might have been wrong. Maybe injured prey triggered something too strong to overcome. But Sentinel didn't approach Hana. Instead, she positioned herself between the pack and the 2 humans. She stood there solid and unmovable, making a low sound in her throat. The other adults stopped. They looked at their alpha, then at the humans, then back at Sentinel. One by one, they backed off. They moved to the edges of the clearing and sat down, watching but not approaching. Jiwoo felt something break inside her chest. Not fear, wonder. Sentinel was protecting them. The alpha had decided that Jiwoo and Hana were part of something. Maybe not the pack exactly, but something worth protecting. "She's guarding us," Hana whispered in amazement. "Yes," Jiwoo said. "She recognizes you as part of my group, and I've been accepted as non-threatening, so she's extending that protection to you." Stryker lay down next to Sentinel, mimicking his mother's protective stance. The young cub didn't fully understand what was happening, but he knew his mother was doing something important. They stayed like that for 30 minutes. Sentinel standing guard, the pack waiting patiently, Jiwoo finishing Hana's splint, and Hana lying there stunned by what she was witnessing. When the shuttle finally appeared in the sky, Sentinel looked up at it. The noise made her ears flick back, uncertain, but she held her position. "We need to move to the landing zone," Jiwoo said. "Can you stand if I help you?" "I'll try," Hana said. Jiwoo helped Hana up carefully. They moved slowly toward the clearing where the shuttle would land, and Sentinel moved with them. The alpha walked alongside them, still positioned between the pack and the humans. Stryker followed at her heels. The shuttle landed and the door opened. Medical personnel rushed out with a stretcher. They stopped when they saw the Raveks. "It's okay," Jiwoo called to them. They're not a threat. They're helping. The medical team loaded Hana onto the stretcher. As they carried her to the shuttle, Stryker made a soft whining sound. He looked confused. Where were they taking his play friend? Jiwoo knelt down next to him. She'll be back, Jiwoo said softly. I promise. She just needs to heal. She touched his head gently. Stryker leaned into her hand. Sentinel made a sound, calling her cub back. Stryker went to her, but he kept looking back at the shuttle. Are you coming? One of the medical team called to Jiwoo. Jiwoo looked at the pack. At Sentinel. At Stryker. No, she said. I'm staying. Someone needs to maintain the relationship we've built. I'll come up tomorrow for the debriefing. The shuttle took off. Jiwoo watched it disappear into the sky. Then she turned back to the pack. Sentinel was still there watching her. Thank you, Jiwoo said to the Alpha. She knew Sentinel didn't understand the words, but maybe she understood the tone. The gratitude. Sentinel dipped her head slightly. Then she turned and walked back into the forest. The pack followed. Stryker looked back one more time, then bounded after his mother. Jiwoo stood alone in the clearing. She knew the cameras had recorded everything. She knew the council had seen it all. An apex predator protecting injured prey. It went against everything they thought they knew about predator behavior. But Jiwoo had always known the truth. Predators weren't simple killing machines. They were intelligent, social, capable of complex emotions and decisions. Sentinel hadn't protected them because she was confused or broken. She protected them because she had chosen to accept them. And that changed everything. The video of Sentinel protecting Hana spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within days, every major news network was showing it. Philosophers debated what it meant. Scientists demanded access to the data, and politicians argued about what to do with humanity. Jiwoo sat in a meeting room on the station, watching the news coverage with Dae-jung and Hana. Hana's leg was in a cast, propped up on a chair. She looked tired but excited. Some of them think we're heroes, Hana said, pointing at one news channel. Others think we're dangerously insane. Both might be true, Dae-jung said with a slight smile. But his smile faded as he switched to another channel. This one is calling for restrictions on human researchers. They want us supervised at all times. Jiwoo felt a flash of anger. We just proved that predators can form protective bonds with other species. We showed that intelligence exists in forms they've been too afraid to recognize. And their response is to restrict us? Fear makes people react in strange ways, Hana said. They're seeing their entire worldview challenged. That's hard for anyone. Velthar entered the room. He looked different, less nervous, more thoughtful. The Galactic Council wants to meet with you, Dr. Han. Ambassador Park is requesting your presence at the next session. Am I in trouble? Jiwoo asked. I don't think so, Velthar said. I think they want to understand. The video changed something. People are asking questions they never asked before. He sat down carefully. I've been thinking a lot these past few days. About fear, about instinct, about how much we let our evolution control our thinking. He looked at Jiwoo. I owe you an apology. I almost stopped your research because I was afraid. Not because the data was wrong, just because it scared me. You let me continue anyway, Jiwoo said. That took courage. It took stubbornness, Velthar corrected. But I'm glad I did. That video of Sentinel protecting Hana, I've watched it 100 times. Every time my instincts scream danger. But my mind sees something else. I see intelligence. I see choice. I see a being deciding to protect instead of hunt. That's exactly what it was, Jiwoo said. Velthar was quiet for a moment. Then he said something Jiwoo hadn't expected. I want to propose something to the council. Something radical. I want to bring Stryker here, to the station. Everyone stared at him. You want to bring a Ravex onto the station? Dae-jung said slowly. The cub, Velthar clarified. He's young enough to adapt to a new environment. And he already trusts Dr. Han. If people could see a Ravex up close in a controlled setting, maybe they would understand what you've been trying to teach us. Jiwoo thought about it carefully. It could work, she said, but only if we do it right. Stryker would need time to adjust. He'd need space to move and play, and he'd need to be able to return to his pack when he's ready. The human section of the station is large enough, Dae-jung said. We could convert one of the empty cargo bays into a habitat. Give him room to run. The council will never approve it, Hana said. They're already scared. Bringing a predator onto the station will terrify them. That's exactly why we should do it, Velthar said. Not to terrify them, but to show them their fear is based on assumptions, not reality. They need to see that a predator can exist peacefully among prey species. That intelligence and violence aren't the same thing. You've changed your mind completely, Jiwoo said with a smile. No, Velthar said. I'm still afraid. I probably always will be. But I've learned that being afraid doesn't mean being right, and avoiding things that scare us means avoiding growth. The council meeting was intense. Half the representatives supported bringing Stryker to the station. Half thought it was the worst idea they'd ever heard. The debate went on for hours. Finally, they voted. By a narrow margin, the proposal passed. But there were conditions. Stryker would stay in the human section only. Jiwoo would be with him at all times. Any sign of aggression would mean immediate return to the planet. I can work with that, Jiwoo said. Bringing Stryker to the station took careful planning. Jiwoo went down to the planet alone to prepare him. She spent 3 days with the pack, gradually getting Stryker used to the idea of leaving. Sentinel seemed to understand something was happening. She watched as Jiwoo played with Stryker, preparing him for new experiences. The Alpha didn't stop it. Jiwoo thought maybe Sentinel trusted her enough to let her cub go temporarily. On the day of transport, Stryker was excited. He thought it was a new game. The shuttle ride confused him at first. He pressed his nose against the window, watching the planet fall away below. But Jiwoo was there, speaking softly to him, and that kept him calm. When they arrived at the station, Stryker's eyes went wide. He had never seen so much metal and glass, never heard so many strange sounds. Jiwoo led him to the converted cargo bay slowly, letting him sniff everything, letting him explore at his own pace. The habitat they'd built was impressive. Soft flooring to protect his paws, climbing structures, toys, a sleeping area with blankets. It wasn't the forest, but it was comfortable. For the first day, Stryker stayed close to Jiwoo. He was uncertain about this strange new place, but gradually his curiosity won over his nervousness. He explored every corner. He played with every toy, and when he got tired, he curled up next to Jiwoo and slept. The alien researchers watched through reinforced glass. They could come to the viewing area anytime they wanted. Most came just to stare. They had never been this close to a predator before. Over the following weeks, something remarkable happened. People started to see Stryker not as a monster, but as an individual. They watched him play. They watched him sleep. They watched him solve problems to get treats. They saw intelligence in his eyes. Jiwoo started giving demonstrations. She would work with Stryker, showing how he responded to signals, how he learned new behaviors, how he showed different emotions. The researchers could ask questions through the intercom. Why does he tilt his head like that? Someone asked. He's trying to understand something, Jiwoo explained. It's a sign of curiosity. Watch, I'll show you. She held up a new toy Stryker had never seen before. His head tilted immediately. Then he approached slowly, sniffed it, and started playing with it. He's learning, someone else said in wonder. All the time, Jiwoo said. He's incredibly smart. He remembers people who are kind to him. He avoids people who show fear aggression. He's learning to navigate a multi-species environment. One day, Velthar made a decision that shocked everyone. He asked to enter the habitat. Are you sure? Jiwoo asked. No, Velthar admitted. But I need to do this. I need to face my fear directly. Will you be there with me? Of course, Jiwoo said. Velthar stepped through the door. His whole body was tense, every muscle ready to run. Stryker looked up from his toy and saw the new visitor. The cub approached, curious about this tall creature with a different smell. Velthar froze. Jiwoo could see him shaking slightly. Breathe, Jiwoo said softly. You're safe. He's just curious. Let him sniff you. Stryker sniffed Velthar's leg. His nose worked analyzing this new scent. Then, satisfied, he simply walked away. He picked up his ball and brought it to Jiwoo, ready to play. Velthar stood very still. Then slowly he started to laugh. Not from humor. From relief. From realization. He doesn't care, Velthar said. He sniffed me and decided I was boring. Exactly, Jiwoo said. You're not prey to him. You're not a threat. You're just another being in his environment. He's categorized you as neutral. Velthar sat down slowly on the floor. He was still shaking, but he was smiling. I've spent my whole life afraid of predators. My species has feared them for millions of years, and this cub just walked away from me because I wasn't interesting enough. Fear makes us think everything is about us, Jiwoo said. But Stryker has his own life, his own interests. You're just part of his world, not the center of it. I understand now, Velthar said quietly. I really understand. It's not about conquering fear. It's about understanding that the fear is based on a story I'm telling myself. And that story isn't necessarily true. Jiwoo smiled. They sat together in the habitat, watching Stryker play with his toys, completely unconcerned about the breakthrough happening around him. And through the glass, dozens of researchers watched too, seeing with their own eyes what humanity had been trying to teach them all along. 6 months had passed since Stryker came to the station. He was bigger now, almost full-grown. His movements were more confident. His intelligence was obvious to everyone who watched him. But it was time for him to go home. Jiwoo had always known this day would come. Stryker needed to rejoin his pack. He needed to learn how to hunt, how to live as a Ravex. The station was comfortable, but it wasn't his real home. She packed her gear for one final trip to the planet. Stryker watched her with intelligent eyes. He seemed to understand something was changing. He stayed close to her side, quieter than usual. The researchers came to say goodbye. Many of them had grown attached to Stryker. They had watched him every day, learning from him. Velthar came too, standing much closer than he would have 6 months ago. Thank you for this, Velthar said to Jiwoo. For everything you've taught us. Not just about the Ravex, about ourselves. You taught yourself, Jiwoo said. I just provided the opportunity. Will you come back? Velthar asked. To continue studying them? Yes, Jiwoo said. But things are different now. Other xenobiologists want to study predator species. Earth is sending more researchers. The galaxy is starting to understand that intelligence takes many forms. I'll come back, but I won't be alone. The shuttle ride down was quiet. Stryker pressed against the window, watching his home planet get closer. Jiwoo could see excitement in his body language. He recognized where he was going. They landed in the familiar clearing. Stryker bounded out of the shuttle immediately, sniffing the air. He had been gone for months, but this place still smelled like home. Jiwoo set up camp one last time. She didn't have to wait long. The pack had probably smelled the shuttle. They would come to investigate. Sentinel emerged from the trees first. The Alpha looked older, a few more scars on her shoulders. But she moved with the same confidence. Her eyes locked onto Stryker. For a moment, everything was still. Mother and son, separated for months, seeing each other again. Then Stryker made a sound. Something between a whine and a bark. He ran to Sentinel. The Alpha sniffed her cub thoroughly. He smelled different now, like metal and humans in strange places, but he was still her cub. She made a low rumbling sound, and the rest of the pack emerged from the trees. They surrounded Stryker, greeting him, checking him, welcoming him back. Stryker was overwhelmed with joy. He play-bowed to each adult, showing respect and excitement. This was his family. Jiwoo watched from her camp. She felt happiness and sadness mixed together. She was glad Stryker was home, but she would miss him. They had formed a real bond over those months. Sentinel approached Jiwoo. The Alpha's eyes were different than they had been months ago. There was something new in them. Recognition, understanding, maybe even respect. Jiwoo stood slowly, keeping her posture relaxed. Sentinel came close, closer than she ever had before. The Alpha lowered her head slightly. Not submission, acknowledgement. One leader recognizing another. Jiwoo touched Sentinel's shoulder gently. Thank you for trusting me with him, she said softly. He's a remarkable being. You raised him well. Sentinel made a sound deep in her throat. Then she turned and walked back to her pack. She made a short bark, a command. The pack started moving into the forest. Stryker followed, but he kept looking back at Jiwoo. The cub stopped at the edge of the clearing. He looked at his mother, then at Jiwoo. Torn between two worlds, two families, two homes. Jiwoo raised her hand slowly. A farewell gesture. Stryker tilted his head, watching. Then he made his choice. He turned and bounded after his pack, disappearing into the trees. Jiwoo stood alone in the clearing for a long time. She would return to the station tomorrow. She had reports to write, data to analyze, But for now, she just wanted to remember this moment. The moment a bridge was built between two species that should have been enemies. Back on the station, life was changing. The success of Stryker's visit had opened doors. More predator species were being studied. Humans were leading most of those studies, sharing their knowledge with alien researchers who were learning to overcome their instincts. Velthar had started a program teaching alien scientists about predator behavior. He used what he had learned from Jiwoo, from watching Stryker, from facing his own fears. Other prey species were slowly learning that predators weren't simple monsters. They were complex beings with their own intelligence and social structures. Hana's leg had healed completely. She was training new researchers now, teaching them the basics of predator psychology. Many were nervous, but they trusted her. She had survived a broken leg surrounded by apex predators. Her story gave others courage. Captain Dae-jung was working with the Galactic Council on new protocols. Not protocols that restricted humans, but protocols that used human expertise to help other species. Humans were becoming bridge builders, helping the galaxy understand life forms that had been feared and avoided. Ambassador Park had told Jiwoo that Earth's standing in the Galactic Union had changed completely. Instead of being seen as reckless deathworlders, humans were now valued for their unique perspective. Other species were requesting human advisors, human researchers, human diplomats. "You changed everything," Park had said to Jiwoo. "That moment when the cub grabbed your glove, when you laughed instead of running, you showed the galaxy something they had never seen. You showed them that understanding is stronger than fear." 3 weeks after returning from Vector 7, Jiwoo gave a lecture. The auditorium was packed. Representatives from dozens of species came to hear her speak. The title of her presentation was simple: Understanding Intelligence in Predator Species. She showed videos of her work with the Ravex. She explained pack dynamics, communication methods, social structures. She talked about Sentinel's protective behavior, about Stryker's learning capacity, about the complex emotional lives of beings that had been dismissed as simple killers. "For millions of years," Jiwoo said to the audience, "your species survived by fearing predators. That fear was useful. It kept you alive. But fear can also blind us. It can make us miss important things." She showed the video of Stryker hanging from her glove, growling softly in play. "When you look at this, what do you see? Do you see teeth and claws and danger? Or do you see a young being playing, testing boundaries, learning about his world?" The audience was quiet. Jiwoo could see them thinking, struggling with ideas that challenged everything they knew. "Humans evolved differently than you," Jiwoo continued. "We weren't just prey. We learned to understand predators because we had to. We learned to read their body language, to recognize when they were dangerous and when they weren't. That knowledge saved us. And then it did something more. It let us form partnerships with beings you would only ever see as threats." She showed pictures from Earth. Dogs herding sheep, cats living in homes, humans working with dolphins. These relationships exist because we learned to look past fear. We learned to see individuals instead of categories. We learned that intelligence and cooperation can exist in any form. "The galaxy is full of intelligent life," Jiwoo said.
Some of that life evolved from prey.
Some evolved from predators. Some, like humans, evolved from both. Each path creates a different perspective. Each perspective has value. We can learn from each other, but only if we're willing to face our fears and look beyond them. After the lecture, dozens of researchers approached Jiwoo with questions. They wanted to learn more. They wanted to study predator species themselves. They wanted to overcome their instinctive fear and discover what they had been missing. Velthar found her in the crowd. "You did it," he said. "You really did it. You changed how the galaxy thinks about predators." "We did it together," Jiwoo corrected. "You faced your fear. You learned to trust evidence over instinct. That's harder than anything I did. I still get scared sometimes," Velthar admitted. "When I think about entering Stryker's habitat that day, my heart races." "Being brave doesn't mean not being scared," Jiwoo said. "It means being scared and doing the right thing anyway." That night, Jiwoo stood at her window looking down at Vector 7. Somewhere on that planet, Stryker was running with his pack, hunting, playing, living his life as a Ravex. But he had taught the galaxy something important. He had shown them that predators could be intelligent, social, peaceful, and it all started with a simple moment. A cub grabbing a glove, a human laughing instead of running, a pack leader choosing protection over predation. Ji-woo touched the window glass gently. "Thank you, Striker," she whispered. "Thank you for being brave enough to trust me. Thank you for teaching the galaxy to look beyond fear." She turned away from the window. There was work to do. More species to study, more researchers to train, more bridges to build between beings who thought they could never understand each other. But she knew one thing for certain. Evolution shaped how species saw the world. But intelligence, true intelligence, meant you could change your perspective. You could learn. You could grow. You could look at something you always feared and see it differently. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not fearlessness, not special powers, just the simple understanding that fear is a feeling, not a fact, and that the most important things in life often lie on the other side of fear. A small cub had grabbed her glove. She had lifted her hand and let him hang there, growling softly in play, and that one moment had changed everything. Because sometimes the smallest actions create the biggest changes, and sometimes the most important lessons come from the least expected teachers.